Joining me now to weigh in, representing North Carolina's 9th Congressional District, Congressman Dan Bishop. Congressman, thank you so much for joining me. Obviously, a lot to unpack here. But first, I'll start with Biden's proposed sanctions. We heard from former President Donald Trump, who's bashing Biden, saying that they're weak and ineffective.
Yeah, thanks, Stephanie. They are weak and ineffective. That the crisis, the predicament of Ukraine seems to have the complete attention of the Biden administration, and there's a lot of tough talk. But and then they ought to put together sanctions, and we ought to be prepared to provide lethal material to Ukraine to do the best they can to defend themselves. But the predicament of Ukraine, you can trace a direct line from the weakness of the United States through President Biden in Afghanistan to the current predicament of Ukraine. And the irony is, if you remember back to Ambassador Yovanovitch and the Ukrainian ambassador to the United States editorializing in favor of Hillary Clinton and against President Trump, or against President Trump in any event before the election, they're in a lot worse situation now, and they'd be in a different situation if Donald Trump were president. But President Biden is not apparently capable of backing up his tough talk, and unfortunately the Ukrainians are in a bad way because of it.
Yeah, and I thought it was interesting to hear from Germany that they were going to cancel the process of a Nord Stream 2. Okay, that's interesting, but there's still Nord Stream 1, and they still get so much of their energy from Russia. So it just seems kind of toothless, doesn't it?
Well, that's exactly right. And again, it's traceable to a foreign policy error on the part of Joe Biden. As Bob Gates said at that time, he's been on the wrong side of every foreign policy issue for 45 years. As soon as he came into office, he gave breathed new life into the Nord Stream 2 project for Russia, and he shouldn't have. And so Germany's in a tough spot, needing fuel, needing natural gas, because the United States is a less reliable partner and no longer energy independent itself. So again, big mistake to turn over leadership to Joe Biden when he was clueless about what to do with it.
Yeah. We have a flashback tweet from Joe Biden. It was posted on February 21 of 2020. He said, "Vladimir Putin doesn't want me to be president. He doesn't want me to be our nominee. If you're wondering why, it's because I'm the only person in this field who's ever gone toe-to-toe with him." Interesting tweet from Biden. And notice that Vladimir Putin wasn't on the move like this when President Trump was in office.
Yep, that's my point exactly, Stephanie, and it sums it up. The tweet you've selected, and that is unbelievable irony, sort of tragic irony, but it makes clear when you look at what it hasn't held up well, as they say. So the thing that you have to worry about from the point of view of the United States is all of this focus on the predicament of Ukraine, and it's one we can be sympathetic with. But we do not want to get in a situation where Joe Biden, trying to now compensate for his own blunders, puts the United States in harm's way. We have no national security interest in the Ukraine. It would never be appropriate to commit United States troops or NATO troops, in my view, there. And we need to say that up front. What we need to be focused on here in the United States is our southern border, which has been erased by the Biden administration also, where we have just a flood of migration and people being released in the United States without any maintenance of our southern border. So that's where our focus needs to continue to be, and we need not to be distracted by the great number of problems we have here at home because of Democrat incompetence, Biden's incompetence, and completely absorbed in the predicament of Ukraine.
Well, I'm glad you brought up our southern border, because as you know, our border czar, VP Kamala Harris, has been ignoring her task, which was to deal with the border crisis and the situation going on here in America. Yet, she has a lot of interest in Ukraine's borders. She's all for territorial integrity when it comes to other countries, but when it comes to the U.S., she doesn't really have much to say about that. And we have video of it, so let's take a look at her remarks in regards to Ukraine, and then we'll react after. Roll tape.
The United States is equally committed to these principles, that people have a right to choose their own form of government, that nations have a right to choose their own alliances, that there are inalienable rights which governments must protect, that the rule of law should be cherished, that sovereignty and territorial integrity of all states must be respected, and that national borders should not be changed by force.
It's really fascinating to hear those words come out of her mouth, isn't it?
Stephanie, it's just watching it. Look, I'm a practical guy, but just it's so sad. She assumes if she stands up and has a stern posture and formal way of speaking that she portrays some kind of seriousness. I guess we can say at least she's shown up there, and she's never shown up to be the czar of the border. So she's left that problem completely untended. I guess she went down there and ran through real quickly and picked up a photo op, but somewhere near the border while she was at a fundraising trip, but otherwise has given it no attention. So she goes to Europe. It's just embarrassing. I mean, it's cringeworthy that she thinks that is the way to conduct oneself, and that you make a speech and show a little drama on camera and that somehow makes the situation better. We're talking about people's lives ending and people being at war. There's no time for amateurs.
Well, and again, I just thought it was fascinating that she was talking about sovereign nations and the importance of having borders, yet she doesn't bring that here to America. She doesn't talk about the United States in that way. She doesn't believe, she's always been an open borders person, and she's made that very clear, which was always bizarre that Biden had tapped her to be the border czar. And, it's just so insulting, too, because she's still looking for the root causes as to what causes migration. We already know. And the Border Patrol agents tell her, that the world leaders in these other countries affected, they tell her, but yet it just doesn't seem to stick. And there's probably reasons for that. And we saw that there were more migrants released into the U.S. last month than there were deported in all of the fiscal year of 2021. The situation just keeps getting worse.
Absolutely it does, Stephanie. And to your point about the vice president, I mean, so in addition to her having this affected, cosmetic sort of position, you're right. The substance behind her is completely lacking, to the point that she's been complicit in abandoning any kind of border enforcement in any protection of our national sovereignty and borders, and effectively being complicit in an invasion of the United States. It's totally impractical, and to that point, it continues apace. It's easy for Americans to lose sight of it because it falls out of the headlines, despite the efforts of many of us to make sure people are aware. But this continues at the highest levels in decades, really ever, every month. And meanwhile, the effort to enforce, as indicated by the numbers of people being deported, dropped like a stone. It is a complete abdication of the responsibility to faithfully execute the laws.
And the sad thing is that people who are silent about it, don't really know about it, or don't really care, they don't realize how bad this is for their communities and for our country until it's too late. And that's the problem. Really quickly, I wanted to give you a chance to talk about the legislation that you introduced in regards to the mask mandates on public transportation. I'm thankful that you introduced this. It's such a scam that we're still being asked to wear, forced to wear masks while flying and on public transit. Yet keep in mind, all these people that are for these rules, by the way, the mask mandates, they all get caught not wearing masks. They don't believe masks work either.
You have put your finger on it. So Brian Mast of Florida and I have introduced in the House the companion bill to Senator Rand Paul's bill in the Senate, which would end CDC mask mandate on public transit and, of course, in airline travel. And you've hit the nail on the head, as usual, Stephanie. If the mask provided some critical benefit, you would not see Democrats, celebrities, and politicians every time they're caught on candid camera without a mask. You would not see Stacey Abrams posing with a big smile on her face in front of all the masked children in school. You wouldn't see the Super Bowl celebrities in profusion standing there without a mask. It's time to end this ridiculous charade and let's get life back to normal. It is a tool of oppression. It's a tool to demonstrate control over the sheep of the people. And that's not the way we think of ourselves in the United States. It's an improper relationship between government and people. It was never passed by Congress. Let's get it done. Let's get it gone.
Well, and the studies have shown that they provide hardly any sort of advantage, especially like the cloth masks, those really just don't work. And so again, it's just a charade. The people who make the rules don't want to wear them. And then, I mean, it just even gets more humiliating and just more outrageous when you hear some of their excuses, like the mayor of Los Angeles, Eric Garcetti. He was caught not wearing a mask at several games, and he says he was holding his breath. I mean, these people think we're stupid. We're tired of it. It's been over 2 years. It's time to turn the page. So we're thankful for people like you who come up with legislation like this. I mean, it's just crazy that we even have to have legislation for something like this. It's unreal. Well, Congressman, we appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Stephanie. Good to be with you.
Thanks.